Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Encounter 335 or 335. My name is John O'Logan, and to everyone out there who was listening to last week's episode, my brief flirtation with enjoying baseball is now over. That was one of the most brutal, frustrating, torturous couple of hours that I can remember having in years, and I don't even like baseball, so I can imagine what it was like to people who actually love baseball. And the moral of the story of this World Series for me is clear. Go back to video games, because video games can't hurt you unless they're like really bad or like they're really sad or someone throws one at you. But otherwise, they don't hurt you. But the games we're talking about today certainly won't hurt you, and neither will our guests. Caitlin?
I don't know. The jury is still out on whether or not I don't hurt people. I've been told I'm spicy. And in same thing in slightly less nice terms. So I don't know. I might bite. Arr.
And we also have Matt. Matt, please protect me.
I can't confirm if I will hurt people or not, but I hope I don't. I hope we're all having fun today.
I do too. Well, normally I would ask a question about my preamble, but unless I miss my guess here, I think Caitlin might give as much of a about baseball as I do, and since Matt is Canadian, I already know how you feel about it.
I mean, you actually watched baseball. I didn't, so I think I give less of a shit than you do.
Mine was more about Canada than it was baseball. But yeah, either way, let's talk about something that I actually do want to talk about and will enjoy. I know for a fact I will enjoy it because I started playing it, and I started playing it like an hour and a half ago just to prepare for this podcast. And now I don't want to record this podcast. I just want to keep playing it.
Yes.
And that is the Séance of Blake Manor. So this is a deductive mystery game, which is one of my all-time favorite genres, kind of in line with like Obra Dinn, Case of the Golden Idol. Actually, in many ways, it's kind of a combination of the two. It's like perspective of Obra Dinn with the word combination thing of Golden Idol. And I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but it kind of came out of nowhere, which is very, very funny because I know the developer. I know the dev. They were the makers of the Darkside Detective series, a series of like pixel art, super basic pixel art point and click adventure games. And they're great. So when I didn't even know they made this game. And when I found out, I was like, oh, that makes sense. So I know why I heard of it. Caitlin, how did you hear about it? And you're reviewing it for the site. The review's not out yet. It will be out relatively soon after this at some point. What about this game really caught your attention and made you want to play it?
So I actually found out about this game through our, RPG fan site discussion. Someone mentioned, hey, this looks like this could be an interesting game for us to review. Is anyone available? And they had a demo up, and I was like, it was like the week before Halloween, or the week before the game release, which was also like 3 days before Halloween. So it was perfect, spooky kind of season game. And I was like, yeah, I'll check out the demo, and if it's vibing with me, I'll and no one else wants to do it, I'll put my hat in the ring. And it vibed with me, or I vibed with it, or both. Both. Why not both? So, the rest, as they say, is history. I was like, I need more spooky games in my life, even though I'd already just played The Quarry for my annual spooky game. But I was like, I want more. And
more spooky game.
Yes, more spooky games. You can never have enough spooky games as far as I'm concerned.
I can't disagree. Also, I don't know why I asked you this question, because as soon as you started talking, I was like, oh yeah, that was me. I was talking
about you did this.
Who are you talking to, Caitlin? There's nobody on the other end. John has been dead for 13 years.
Oh no, Sixth Sense, it comes back.
Only on the inside, Matt, only on the inside. Yeah, this game, I like I said, I've only played for like an hour and a half, and it friggin' rocks. It is so good thus far, and I cannot, unless it drops off suddenly and unexpectedly, I can't see it getting worse. I think I can just see it getting better. This thing hits me exactly where I live when it comes to games. Oh, geez, I can't wait to play more of it, Caitlin.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about it dropping off. I think it maintains the same level and in some respects increases the intensity and the intrigue the further you get in. It kind of keeps a nice steady pace throughout the rest of the game. The ending is, I won't spoil anything, it's maybe a little bit on the abrupt side. It resolves things, but if you're looking for like a long drawn out conclusion, this isn't it. But it's still satisfying. I still enjoyed it. I went back and I reloaded saves so I could see other ending possibilities and what happens if you do things poorly, because I did things pretty freaking well for my first playthrough. And so there's, having said that, there's a certain amount of replayability there. If like you're on your first playthrough, if you don't figure everything out, it's really easy to go back and reload a save and wind back time and try different things. Or like if you really want to see what happens when you're the worst detective in the world versus being, the best detective in the world or whatnot. So you can do stuff like that.
Yeah, it has a generous autosave system from what I can see, which is great because if you do screw up, you kind of want to restart back as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can actually do it. I was in such a hurry in the game because I was, like I said, I was trying to play as much as I can before I recorded the podcast tonight. And like, there's a really obvious, stupid thing you can do, like in the first few minutes of the game, where you sneak into a manager's office and then he calls your name. And if you walk out the door, he'll be like, "What are you doing there? Get out of my manor." Yep. And that's just the game end. And I was in such a hurry. I was just like, I just walked out the door and ended the game. I was like, oh yeah, that was dumb.
Let's set the stage because we haven't actually explained
absolutely
what this game is about. So the Séance of Blake Manor is, like you said, it's a mystery detective whodunit game set in 1897 in rural Western Ireland. You play as a detective named Declan Ward who
great name.
Yeah. Sort of in true Knives Out fashion gets hired anonymously by somebody to head out to this creepy, spooky manor turned into a hotel and find a missing person named Evelyn Dean. And the hotel is also hosting this thing called the Grand Seance. So there's a lot of mystics and spiritualists and other people that are either involved in or skeptical about the idea of spirits and ghosts and higher powers or whatnot present. And your job is to basically get in everybody's business and figure out who they all are and what they're doing there and what part, if any, they might have played in the disappearance of this woman that you're looking for, and figuring out what happened to her, where is she, and various other mysteries that pop up in the course of your investigation. And you're trying to do it on the down low. You're trying not to necessarily give away the game because you don't know who might have something to do with this disappearance. And if you tip your hand, then you kind of mess everything up. So it's presented as a first person 3D world adventure game where you can move around a 3D environment and you can click on things to investigate and add items or information to your evidence pile. But the art style is very much presented sort of as almost like comic book style. The cutscenes are all presented in like comic book panels. There are like sound effects that show up on the screen written out as automatopoeia, like you would see in, wham, pow, snap, crackle, pop, that kind of thing. The like characters, the characters are, sort of presented in comic book style with thick lines, bold, if not muted colors. They're kind of almost like semi Paper Mario-esque in that if you move around them, you start to see how they're paper thin. They're not three-dimensional, like fully, full of polygon like figures, but they'll kind of rotate as you do to like give the appearance that they are fully present. But it's a kind of interesting, blend of 3D environment with flat character art and whatnot.
That's actually becoming very popular lately in terms of the way that characters are portrayed. And the art style, actually, you know what it really reminds me of? I don't know if either of you have played it. There's a classic adventure game called Beneath the Steel Sky. Matt, I'm going to assign you to play this.
Sure.
and then write it. There's a comic book artist by the name of Dave Gibbons. He was the artist of Watchmen, actually. And he did all of the art for Beneath the Steel Sky, all of the designs, and he has like comic book panels that occasionally show up in this game. It's a point-and-click adventure game, like LucasArts style, but the art reminds me a little bit of that, and I'm betting there's a non-zero chance that this was inspired by it, if not in terms of the style of the game itself, because that's like cyberpunk sci-fi, but in terms of just the way it's presented. Also, maybe I'm wrong about this, but just my interpretation looking at all of the character designs so far, they remind me a lot of the character designs of Archer for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
The television show, the cartoon show, they look a little bit like Archer. And I have to admit, when I was playing the prologue, I was kind of imagining Archer playing the main role, which would have been very funny.
You're supposed to be a good detective, not an awful one, though.
But Archer's actually good at his job. That's why I like him. That's why I like the show so much. He's like a complete idiot. One of my favorite character types are characters who are complete and utter idiots, but they're actually really good at what they do. I like that juxtaposition. Anyway, this guy is not that. He's a genuinely good detective, unless, of course, you're terrible at it. Then he's a terrible detective.
Yeah. And I mean, you can certainly go that route if you want, and you might very well wind up getting a game over very quickly into the game, like Jono, like you did, stepping out of the manager's door. But the game, I would say that it's a good sort of setup, and the game gives you, the tools you need and the space to investigate the way that you want. But it's not brutally difficult, and you have lots of opportunity to find the information that you need and to draw the conclusions that you need. The game does things like, for instance, you have a detective vision toggle where you can see all the things that you can interact with in a space. So
channel your inner Batman.
Yeah, or Geralt of Rivia or whatnot. And so like if you can use that to see when you're in a space, like everything that you could click on. So like if you're worried about maybe missing some crucial thing because you just didn't know it was a thing you could interact with, you can always like hold a button and, see that and find things that way. And the game, Declan is pretty good about piping up and saying, I think I found a new clue, and you can go and you can literally look at all your evidence in a menu. There's a mysteries menu where you can basically see every mystery and investigation that you're in the middle of, and it gives you this whole sort of like, super detective mind map kind of view where you can see all the different nodes and how they connect, and it gives you ideas about what leads you should be pursuing in terms of like, well, maybe I need to go to this person's room, or maybe I need to go to the library and research this topic, or maybe I need to ask other people about this person or this subject and see what they say. And when you find enough information, then the game prompts you to form a hypothesis, which is basically sort of like a Mad Lib kind of thing. You have a sentence that you're asked to complete by filling in various words. And those words come from the evidence you've collected. There's only so many words that you can put in any given slot. And your goal is just to basically make a sentence that makes sense. If you get it wrong, in most cases, if you get it wrong, there's no penalty. You just try again. So the game is fairly forgiving in terms of like creating these hypotheses. And a lot of them, by the time you get to the point where the game says, I can now form a hypothesis, you already know what the hypothesis is. Like, case in point, I'll point out the very first one, the tutorial hypothesis, as it were. Ward already basically says the hypothesis as part of like the dialogue when you investigate certain pieces of evidence before the game has you make the hypothesis. So the hypothesis is actually kind of super obvious to you. And that's maybe a little bit of a failing of that system, is that by the point you've gotten to by the time you get to that point of making a hypothesis, it's obvious, and sometimes you might have already seen dialogue basically saying, "Oh, that's what this is." So it sometimes takes away from that feeling of a light bulb going over your head. I know what happened here. But it's still fun. Like, I still really enjoyed going into people's rooms when they were not there, of course, because if they're in their room and you try to go in there, they will get you thrown out of the hotel. That's another way that you can get a game over. But going into their rooms and rooting through all their stuff and unlocking their little, keepsake boxes and lock boxes and reading their journals and like getting all the clues and then figuring things out. And it was really fun to piece together. Like, everyone is at this seance for a reason. A lot of them know the person that you're looking for. So you have a lot of people who potentially have motive to want to do something or harm this person. And part of the game is, trying to figure out what can you deduce about the culprit to eliminate people. Like, maybe, you're looking for somebody who wears a certain kind of shoe, or you're looking for somebody who can write, which sounds like a wild thing to say, but this is set in 1897, so it's not necessarily in context that weird that you might have people that haven't learned how to write. And then, the more you investigate each of these guests to figure out who might be involved, you learn about them. Some of them have really tragic backstories. Some of them have, like, their goal in being here is kind of fucked up, not gonna lie. There's definitely some revelations that are like, okay, yeah, that I mean, I get it. This is a spooky horror game. Like, I get it. That is, I'm still a little shocked, but I get it. And then some of them aren't super weird or horror-esque and almost kind of feel super mundane. And then it can be a little weird because the next step after making a hypothesis is to confront that person, to, in most cases, to get them to stop doing whatever they plan on doing. But then when some of them have, like, totally understandable, normal goals, it does feel kind of weird. But, that's just kind of a little dash of little narrative dissonance that, you just kind of have to deal with for the sake of the rest of the game. But yeah, so, like, it is a very fun detective game, I think, especially if you're, into spooky stuff, particularly if you're interested in, like, mythology and folklore, and especially Irish mythology and folklore. This is, of course, being set in Ireland. A lot of the spiritualism aspects of the game are centered around Irish mythology. So you do a lot of, like, several people that are at this seance are local folk healers or spiritualists, and you'll learn about different Irish gods and different Irish specters and spooks. So if you have any interest in learning about the sort of the spooky mythological culture of a different nation, I think, as opposed to, like, maybe the kind of horror game that we're used to, which is, like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, which is, very much focused on being set in a US location, and is just kind of focused on creepy and horror, and not maybe so much the mythology side of things. I think that you will find this very interesting.
Yeah, you feel it right from the top, actually. You enter into the manor, and it is around Halloween, and there are jack-o'-lanterns everywhere, but they are not pumpkins, because in Ireland, in the late 19th century, jack-o'-lanterns were made out of turnips, and they look way friggin' creepier than jack-o'-lanterns, and they are decorated everywhere. And it's like, okay, that's a really nice little cultural touch that makes you feel like you are being immersed into this environment and in this time. It was really a nice touch, I thought.
Yeah.
And that's just, like, off the top. Obviously, there's more than that. When I said off the top that this game seems like a combination of a lot of different mystery deductive games. Like it has a first person perspective and very unique art style. It doesn't look like Oberdin, but like that kind of very striking art style. It has the Mad Libs-esque deduction system exactly of Golden Idol. And it also has something that I love in another one of my favorite deductive games, two of them actually, Inkle's Overboard and Expelled. And I also guess the Hitman series as well. Characters in the manor have like they are constantly moving around on their own schedules. And more importantly, time is always passing. And that is a key difference between this and a lot of deductive mystery games. You have as much time as you want. Like it doesn't cost you anything to examine things. You're either on the ship or you're examining a tableau. Here, every single time you examine something, it uses a little bit of time. Like time is an actual
a resource.
It's a resource in this game, and that is such a cool feeling that it actually lights a fire under you.
Yeah, that's another thing that I thought was, from the very moment I started the demo, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So now I have to worry about, like, you always have the clock at the very top of the screen, and you see every item that you interact with tells you like how much time it spends. And the vast majority is just 1 minute increments. But then there are certain events that you can go to that take more time. So you're always looking at the clock and thinking, okay, so like I have X amount of time. You have to think about, like you mentioned, where different people are at different times because they move around. You also have to think about like, well, I have to get into their rooms when they're not there. So maybe, knowing where they are, even if I don't need to talk to them, is important. So I can, know when I'm safe to go in and go through all their shit. And so, like, from the get-go, you kind of have this idea of like, there's time pressure. Like, I only have so much time to do this. The day that you get to the hotel, as part of like the prologue, the game literally tells you have an hour of game time to figure out this one mystery. And if you fail, then it's game over. And, that doesn't happen super often. It's sort of there at the beginning just to give you the idea that, you have to, use your time efficiently. But it's still a cool way to like drive home that that time is passing and that you only have so much time to figure things out. Now, I will say that when you start up the game, your instinct is to say, okay, I got to be super efficient. I got to make sure I don't run out of time. And you're probably thinking, if I don't do things correctly, I'll run out of time. In practice, once you get used to how the game works, you'll find you have plenty of time. Like if you click on every single thing you can click on and you talk to every character about every single thing you can talk to them about, yeah, sure, you'll run out of time. But the average person who and I'm not saying you have to be super deductive. You do not have to be Batman and like know all of the right things from the get-go. You can fumble around and you can choose the wrong things, liberally, and you will still be fine. So the average player should be able to figure out everything within the time you had. I wound up with like, I think 2.5 or so hours of in-game time at the end of the game where I had done everything I could. I had resolved all of the character mysteries I could. I was just waiting on an in-game event, a dinner to be specific, that occurs at a specific time to progress the main story investigations. So I had nothing else to do. I just, wasted time talking to people about random things. And I mean, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that I royally fucked up everything up to that point, but I'm also not going to say that I was like, clairvoyant and I only clicked on all the right things. I clicked on plenty of things that didn't end up giving me anything, and I still had lots of extra time. So it's there to give you a little bit of an oomph for kicking your pants to say, I got to make sure I do things efficiently. But if you're the kind of player that's worried that you will find that too anxiety inducing to like, oh, I'm going to always be pressed for time and it's not going to be fun, don't worry, you've got lots of time to spare. And the game, on top of being pretty generous with autosaves, it gives you the ability to rewind time by going to the load function. So you can load your saves, but you can also choose to just back time up to any previous hour that you've already gotten through in the game. So if you get to the evening hours one night and realize that, oh, I missed something earlier, like 2 or 3 hours ago in game time that I really need to go back and do, you don't have to start a whole new playthrough or hope you have a save from before that. You can just rewind time. So the game is pretty forgiving in that aspect too.
Yeah, the fact that there is a time limit, it's not even a time limit, like you said, it's not really a time limit, but the fact that even there is a ticking clock, just the presence of having a ticking clock, having a deadline motivates you in a way, like even in life, it's always difficult to start something until the day before it's due. And I think that probably helps. One of the things that I really noticed was there are a fair number of menus in this because there's a lot of information to sort, but it does sort it in such a way that it feels very accessible. Like it does it in, you open menus, there are evidence folders, there's mind maps, things like that. Did you find any of those confusing, or did you find they were very intuitive after a few minutes?
I think the game does a good job of like you get a little tutorial for just about everything, showing you how each of those menus work. So I think it's set out correctly or set out well. My biggest issue was I kept forgetting which direction on the D-pad opened up which menu for the longest time. So I would want to go to the mind map, but accidentally open up my evidence tab. So that's I don't know that that's really the game. I think that's just me trying to remember up is mind map, right is evidence, not the other way around. So, I mean, yeah, I think now I would say that, sometimes it feels like when you go to the mind map, for example, every time you go there, it gives you a little animation where it shows you for any given mystery that you click on, it'll show you everything, every new piece of evidence that you found, and it draws all the links. And that can sometimes get a little annoying, although it does give you a very obvious button to press to skip that. So that's they clearly thought ahead and said, well, people might get tired of this. It would be maybe nice to be able to see maybe have an objectives menu, though, separate from the mind map that just lists all of the leads that you currently have active, instead of, because those nodes are specifically there to basically give you a hint on what you should do next to progress that mystery. But you have to go into that mystery section on the mind map to see them, and then you also have to physically navigate around this mind map to get to that node to read more about what it is. So it could have been nice maybe to have some sort of journal tab where you can just see all of those on their own if you just need a quick reminder of, oh yeah, I need to go to this person's room, or oh yeah, I need to talk to this person about something, blah blah blah. But that's a really minor gripe, and the game, I think the game does a good enough job of you remember what you're doing or where you need to go at most given times without necessarily needing to always go back and double check. So, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you're not just going to be, I suspect that the mystery is going to expand quite a bit from the initial moment, the initial mystery of, okay, what happened to this guest? But I imagine that there are also going to be smaller mysteries throughout the game that may tie into the main one, maybe not. If you're investigating these guests, I imagine that you're going to learn some things about them that have nothing to do with the actual mystery, but are intriguing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think I already sort of discussed how some of them have they're here for unsavory reasons, and others are here for more, normal, understandable reasons. And that's part of the fun too, is the guests in particular are the ones who have some sort of connection to Miss Dean, or possibly even have a reason to not like her. It's fun to uncover their mysteries and figure out, like, because you're immediately thinking, well, someone who might wish harm on this person, that's a pretty good reason to suspect that they might have something to do with her disappearance. And I don't want to say more about that because I don't want to give anything away. Having said that, like, this is there are a total of 22, well, actually I'd say more like 23 people at this event. And it may seem obvious to say, but not all 23 of them have something to do with this person's disappearance. You're going to end up eliminating most of them by the end of the game. Even some of them that, have a reason to not like this person, as you'll discover. But that's kind of like where some of the fun becomes, is like, figuring out, who just doesn't like this person versus who might actually have a reason to want this person gone or want this person disappeared. And, like I said, I can't speak anything more than that. It would give it away. I would say by the time
Please don't. I'm so excited to find out, though.
Yeah, by the time I got to the end where I knew who done it, it made sense. I will say it was absolutely not someone I was expecting from my initial impressions. And I think that's another good thing the game does, is it keeps you kind of on your toes. Every person you investigate, or most of them anyway, initially present as like, oh, well, you've got a reason to do this, so I got to pay attention to you. But now this next person, you've got a reason to do this, I got to pay attention to you. And by the end of it, you're kind of like, well, I don't know. And then the real culprit is like, wow, cool.
So probably not the butler then. No spoilers.
I'm not saying he does have broken glasses. I never got an answer from him about why his glasses were broken. So I don't know.
I make a joke about the butler did it, but this game is playing with certain tropes, like the classic murder mystery, giant manor, weekend away, lots of people of different classes in the manor. There's a big crime. Like, that's classic Agatha Christie style mystery. And I wanted to ask two questions. First, like I said, I'm not very far in. I'm like an hour in, loving it, but just an hour in. I am curious, is there any kind of discussion about themes of like class, for example, like the contrast between the people who work there, the wealthy, the visiting mystics and all, the manor staff, that kind of thing? Because that's usually a factor in these kind of stories. I'm just curious if that's there.
Yeah, there is, to a certain extent. It's not at all a mystery that like the staff of the hotel are largely all people of lower class or lower means, and some of the guests are much more well-to-do kind of people. And there's a little bit of, as you might expect, a little bit of that kind of bleeds into dialogue and whatnot. Not excessively. It didn't feel like, I don't think they were trying to focus on that as much as just to have those little references be there to, make it feel more realistic and immersive for the time period. There's also, obviously, given the time and the location, the fact that you have a lot of people who are involved in mysticism and, the idea of having more like pagan traditions versus traditional Catholic or Christian traditions. There's some of that, as you can imagine, sort of like opinions from the religious people at the manor, and what they think about the more spiritual folk. And some of that might have to do with certain characters' motivations and things that you uncover and have to confront them about. I won't say who or what, but that does come into play. And there is it was nice to see there is a little bit of there's a little content warning when you boot up the game that sort of lays out some of these things that you might see in the course of the game. and clearly presents it like this is there to like fit the setting of this game, but we've made efforts to make sure that it's not insensitive in the process. And I didn't personally see anything that stood out to me. I mean, obviously, like I said, with the time period, there are, some intolerances that get brought up that, for a modern girl like me, would piss me off, but make total sense for the period of time we're talking about. So nothing that was like excessively like, oh, I can't believe this is why this is the mystery behind this character, or this is, or Declan Ward himself is being, super intolerant or whatnot. Even, everything felt appropriate. But not so, super realistic as to offend modern sensibilities.
Okay. Well, my last question about this, and again, I'm really one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you about this. I was excited to talk to you about it anyway because it looked like the kind of game I would really like, and then I decided to play a little bit of it just to get some background. And then I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to Caitlin. She's going to make me so much more excited to play this game, and you are. I think I might be wrong about this, but I'm assuming, much like another deductive mystery game that was released this year, Blueprints, a significant, I guess, character is the building itself, Blake Manor. When you start the game, you are on the grounds, you are walking up to the front door, there's a fountain in front of you. I'm curious about the sense of place of Blake Manor. Like I said, I'm only in the very early parts of the game. Does it feel real, I guess you could say, like an immersive kind of location that really draws you in? Because it's right there in the name. It seems like it should be almost like a character in itself.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, clearly, like you get to explore, pretty much the entirety of the grounds by the end of the game. So in terms of like a physical presence, it definitely feels authentic in that way there. And like the whole, it's not just the visuals, but like the sound effects kind of help, the idea things creak and you hear the rain, and there are the crows cawing in the background. But you can learn a lot about the history of the manor. And I will admit, I didn't do any research to see. I'm presuming that the manor itself is fictional, even if it's set in a real time period, but I haven't looked anything up to see whether that is true or not.
Probably based on a real place. I mean, manors like this were probably dotted all over Ireland in this time period.
But you can learn a lot about the history of the manor, like how it came to be, the people in the past that were responsible for maintaining it. There's at least one mystery that involves a previous Marquess holder of the property, which isn't super connected to anything else, but is a nice little fun sort of side quest for you to uncover, which is creepy and messed up in its own right. So I think they do a good job of making this feel like this is a place that has history, that is absolutely, there's a reason why there are spooky things happening here. There's a reason why the seance is being held here. There's a reason why the ultimate, the truth about what's actually going on is happening here. And it ties into mythology and folklore just as much as it does like the history that the game presents to you of that physical space. And it definitely this, if you're looking for a spooky game set in a, basically an old European castle of sorts, with all of the history that you would expect a place like that to have, this is your game. This will, I think, scratch that itch.
Yeah, and I am looking for that right now. What a coincidence. Thank you, Caitlin, for taking this on. When I heard about this game, I was just like, this seems like something that I would really like us to cover, and I'm really glad that we are. I really can't wait to read your review of this. And by the time you're done it, I suspect I'll be further into the game. So just super pumped about this. It's going to be great. I think it's going to be so good.
It was my pleasure.
Well, you mentioned Europe. Why don't we stay in Europe for a little while, specifically, I guess, in the adventure game sense? And let's go to, I was about to say, let's go to Syberia, which is, of course, not in Europe, but it's not Syberia the place, it's Syberia the game. So, Syberia Remastered. Matt,
Yeah.
a couple of months ago, you played Amerizone, The Explorer's Legacy, a remaster of this game that was released many, many years ago in the early 2000s. And it was a very well-received adventure game at the time, but not like incredibly popular. And then the follow-up to this, which is set in the same world, was Syberia. And Syberia very quickly became a cult classic point-and-click adventure game, especially for the time when point-and-click adventure games were rapidly becoming an endangered species. This game set itself apart with its art style and its vibes more than anything. The art style was it's not steampunk, but almost steampunk, like a lot of gears, a lot of automatons, things like that. A really interesting color palette, various locations that are just slightly outside of reality, but look like it was a game that was heavily based on vibes. I played half of it a few years ago, and as much as I love point-and-click adventure games, I just never grabbed me. I don't know why, but it never grabbed me. However, Syberia Remastered is now out, and this is, I mean, I would go so far as say this is a remake in a lot of ways. And you reviewed it, and this is no spoiler because the review is out now, but you didn't like it near as much as the previous one.
Yeah, I think, if we're talking about calling this a remake, Amarzone, which came out earlier this year, is a proper remake
Amarzone.
where it's added so many things. Like, it's visually overhauled, but like you can still follow the same like puzzle guides from 25 plus years ago. But they update so many aspects of it, and they add new optional puzzles that like increase replayability. Like, it truly is like a fuller, fleshed out game than the original, while respecting the original. Syberia, like, I did not think of it as a remake. I mean, which they don't advertise it as. It is like remastered. Literally, all they added to it was overhauled graphics. Everything else, the sound, like the soundtrack, the sound effects, the voice acting, which are a bit tinny and like retro sounding at times. It's all
they were
the
probably
same.
recorded in someone's closet in 1998.
Exactly. It's all the same. Even to the point where like when something happens, like the train finally starts moving, right? It will cut away to an FMV from the 90s or from the early 2000s. And I was shocked that they didn't redo like even the cut scenes like that. It's like it's very jarring. And they did advertise that like some of the puzzles were like expanded upon and like new puzzles, and like I can count on one hand like I think literally 2 or 3 wrinkles to existing puzzles where it's like, yes, now before you crank this lever, you have to find this puzzle piece and insert it into the slot. Now crank the lever. Like, it's not really adding very much to the original game.
Yeah, and I mean, I was never particularly impressed by the puzzle design of this game either. Well, okay, let me put it this way. This new version, you say literally, it brings new visuals and controls, but scarce little else. I think that this is a very good game to have that old discussion about what is a remake and what is a remaster, because you're right. They have, I guess, remastered most elements of the game except for the visuals, which are completely from scratch. They're based on the original. They look very, very similar in terms of the designs, but it has a completely different perspective. Although it still can be a point and click adventure game where you can click around the world, the reality is that you could play this game very easily with a controller. Like, there's the control scheme is very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, like that's probably like the biggest difference, like you mentioned, like rather than point and click around the screen where you have fixed camera angles, now you're moving around with the left analog stick and approaching things that you can interact with like a prompt. But even that is like the camera is moving at times, but it's not fluidly moving. You're not really controlling the camera. It is moving and hitting the same angles that the original game hits, and like recreating those same viewpoints, right? Just a little bit more in motion. So it's more akin to something like I like Final Fantasy X comes to mind, where it's like the camera's fixed, but it moves with you at times, which I like in a game like Resident Evil, for example. Like, it's very directed. It's well directed in that way. And they know what to show you, when to show you it. So like in that sense, like I'm never groping around in the environments, like looking for clues, like in a lot of adventure games where you're just like clicking. It was very easy to find the interactables, and like it moves at a pretty, well, I'm not going to say it moves at a brisk pace for that, but you'll never be stuck on like a puzzle, I'll say.
All right. Why don't you give us some background? What's the story here?
Sure. So Syberia, it follows a character named Kate Walker, who is, I suppose, the protagonist for the entire Syberia series. She's a young lawyer, and she's representing a, I think they're literally called like the International Toy Corporation, or like Universal Toy Corporation.
Universal Toy Corporation. How so?
Yeah. And she is like, that company is seeking to buy out a factory that makes automatons, which are very steampunky robots, but don't call them robots, in this French factory. So the owner of the factory dies in this small, quaint town. And just when the Universal Toy Company or Corporation is about to acquire the factory, they realize, hey, this old factory owner, she has a younger brother who disappeared to the mysterious land of Syberia with a Y decades ago. So it kind of has a similar narrative structure to Amazon, where you're like a young working professional there to do a job, and you get swept into like a decades old mystery where you're kind of retracing the steps of like a brilliant inventor, and like both seeking the inventor, but also like, you know, piecing together the mystery of what happened, what I think 60 or 70 or 80 years ago. So yeah, whereas Amazon, like most of the levels, like they hinge around the flying machine that the professor that sends you on the quest built. This one, it hinges around a giant train. There's like a wind up train that you spend the first like half of the game getting going, and then you spend the second half of the game getting it going. So it's a similar narrative structure where like it will stop at various stations, and it's like, okay, now we have to like wind the train up again, or we have to like clear the train tracks, or we have to get a visa stamped, or whatever it might be, all on the way to Syberia. But it's implied that like, oh, the missing inventor of the automatons, the little brother, he also stopped at all these places.
Don't want to mention this, but I really have to, because we actually have a review. A reviewer on the site a couple of years ago did a retro review of Syberia, and one of the points that they made in the review is there is a character, and the character is, shall we say, extremely problematic through today's lens.
Oh, Momo. Oh, yeah.
The fact that you just said, yeah, he's introduced in the first few minutes. He's a mentally disabled young boy, and he is, let me put it this way. When I heard they were doing a remaster, I was kind of hoping they would like go back and maybe handle this character with a little bit more care. But nope, there is Momo is still as 2002 stereotypically mentally handicapped as ever.
Oh yeah.
I was disappointed by that. I was kind of hoping that they could have gone back and they could have tweaked it a little bit, not to change it. Like, you can't fix it. He's kind of, you know, in the plot, but at the very least to make it a little bit less of a over the top portrayal, shall we say.
Yeah, Momo's around for like the first hour, and like he's one of the first characters you meet, and he speaks in the third person like, oh, Momo, like you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the game also, the like inventor that you're chasing down, he's also implied to be like mentally disabled, or like at the very least neurodivergent. And they do, like, when I say they change nothing from 20 years ago, they do drop like the R word quite often in the first like 2 hours, where it was a little bit jarring in that way, where I'm like, oh yeah, like this is like a 2000s game, like early 2000s.
This is very much a product of its time.
Yeah. And I'm not faulting the game for that. Like, but just in many ways, yeah, it's a time capsule of like, but more so it's like a gameplay time capsule as well.
Yeah, that's something I was going to ask you about, because when I was playing the beginning of it, I'm very familiar with the beginning of Syberia because I played it like 4 times trying to get into the damn thing originally. And playing this one, it struck me, first off, how I am genuinely shocked that they didn't even attempt to try AI upscaling on the, I'm assuming 440p video, full motion video that was created back in 2002, because it is looking rough as compared to the 4K resolution of the rest of the game. But also, the second you end up in the inn and the very beginning of the game, they are very, very faithful to what the inn looked like in the pre-rendered backgrounds. But these aren't pre-rendered backgrounds. They are completely 3D. They're 3D environments. You can navigate them. And because of that, we mentioned it earlier, but I'd just like to get into it a little bit more. Because of that, they're 3D environments. You can now move around with the left stick to explore freely. I know that you didn't play the original, but I suspect that you obviously can pick it up. It's a point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah.
How do you feel that the analog control over Kate's movement changes the way the game feels from the original?
It does like move the pace along, I suppose, but I think one of the things that, like you said, this game was kind of praised for its vibes and its aesthetic back then. It's a huge game, like as in the worlds are like surprisingly large. Like it's like a fully sized town, the first like act or the first like area. And so for something like tells me like clicking for Kate to go somewhere, it's like you can kind of sit back and like, I don't know, the fact that I'm like having to move the analog stick for everything, I noticed like 3 hours in, I'm like, man, Kate Walker does a lot of walking. Like there is a ton of jogging back and forth. And like a lot of the puzzles, especially like later in the game, like in the university level kind of mid game, it's like, it's not even a puzzle where it's like my brain is not catching up to the puzzle. My brain is already like a step ahead, but I'm waiting for Kate to like walk or jog between two characters, like back and forth in order to like get grapes from them so that I can distract birds from a ladder, because the birds are scary.
There's a lot of fetch quest puzzles in this game.
Yeah, so I think in that way, like it didn't need to be as big as it was. Like at the very least, like when you have cameras that can jump and cut, you can cut out a lot of that walking nonsense, right? But in this game, it's like, because it's trailing you for a lot of it, or it's like hitting those angle points, you are walking through everything. So you definitely have to be like in a patient mindset. Like it definitely is a game that takes its time and it plods along at a pretty slow pace. I will say that I was like intrigued, and I really wanted to, I played the whole game in, I think, 2 sittings and across a couple days. I was excited to like see the ending of it. But all that to say, like my main like disappointment with the game was it really falls flat. Like the ending is very anticlimactic for me, where Amazon is like a self-contained adventure where like it delivers what it promises, and like by the end of it, you'll have done all that you expected to from like a pulp adventure and more. Whereas Syberia, it really like teases you on all these things, like all aboard this adventure train, and the adventure train never goes anywhere. It's like you don't go to Syberia in this game, and it's like you spend so much time of just like oh, the train has stopped again, like yeah, like time to get your visa stamped, and they do like poke fun at that sometimes of like the like bureaucracy of jumping from border to border in the European Union. But it's like, it's one thing to poke fun at it. It's another thing to like make
actually
this
do it.
The gist of your game is this. I'm like, okay. But it is charming. It has more characters than Amazon, which has like maybe 2 or 3 characters. There are like a lot of like NPCs. Some of them are funny, although I'll say like from a voice acting standpoint and a writing standpoint, some of them like they all feel like they're in a different movie or book or a game. Like there are characters that feel very like Roald Dahl-y, and then there are characters that feel like they're from Labyrinth, like the David Bowie movie. And then there are normal characters, and then there are characters like Momo, and I'm like, what is this world? Like it is eerie in a way, not eerie, but it's just like it's off kilter enough to be like, clearly this is not our world, but it's close enough to our world that it creates this kind of cognitive dissonance, which I enjoyed, but they never delve into it in this game. So I really want to play Syberia 2, 3, whatever goes beyond that. But like there are scenes where like the camera might zoom out, like say from the university, and reveal like all the surroundings of the university are devastated by bombings. And I'm like, whoa, they have not mentioned anything about this. Like what's going on here? And there's like that kind of environmental storytelling that doesn't really go anywhere, but it is enough to like, I don't know, hook me through. But I was disappointed that there was no payoff for a lot of that.
I mean, that's part of the problem is the fact that there is no payoff. It ends on a cliffhanger that's picked up in Syberia 2.
Yeah.
And Syberia 2 is also a very good game, also developed in Canada. I just had to get that in there. You know what? I think I might be wrong about this because I haven't played the game like really far into it. But something I noticed based on your review and based on my experiences, you mentioned that various locations feel very, I guess, sparse, like very empty. And I was looking at some other reviews, and some people are talking about how environments feel very large. And you are 100% right. It doesn't feel like that as much in the original game because they're pre-rendered backgrounds that you are jumping between. And because of that, because of the sense of travel, environments just feel much bigger because you actually need to go to places. So they feel much sparser because you have a greater distance to go, which is kind of an easy problem to foresee happening, really, when you are redesigning it. It's so strange. It's so strange. When I heard they were originally, I was very excited when I heard they were remastering Syberia because I was like, oh boy, okay, finally, I'm going to play the crap out of this. And then I looked at it, I was like, wow, this does not look like the same game at all. Like same art style, but like completely different choices made in some of the environments.
Yeah.
Also, Kate's model kind of looks like Chell from Portal at certain angles, which is weird. I think you said it went from PS2 jank to like PS3 levels of jank.
Yeah.
Was that you, or that might have been somebody else?
I think I wrote that. Yeah. It's like, this is like a relatively small French studio, so it's not going to look like on par with AAA games. I think Amazon like looked good from a distance, but like the fact that it's first person, when you get up close to the environment, you're like, ooh, hold on a second. This game, like the camera is pulled far back. So the environments do look pretty beautiful at times, but during dialogue, for example, or like during other moments when they zoom in or like indoor areas, it does look a little bit like blotchy texture wise and like, oh, but yeah, I mean, it's very artistic.
Nobody can say that Syberia does not look gorgeous because the art design in this game is just stunning.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I mean, I love gears. Amanda loves gears. Amanda has a gear tattooed behind her right ear. And I showed her it and she's like, oh, this game looks so good. And I was like, yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's a game on vibes, Matt. You're right. It's a game on vibes, and it's a good vibe too. Like it has a cool vibe that's crossed, but I honestly, I think I'm on the same page as you, which I think the reason why this game is so beloved is just because of the vibes.
Yeah, you can get as much from like listening to the soundtrack, I think, which is excellent, but like very limited.
Really good, yeah.
But yeah, if you're seeking like a pulpy adventure and like a kind of Jules Vernean style thing, like Amazon is very satisfying, and like it bears playing again and again. I feel like you could probably play Amazon like 2 or 3 times and enjoy it. This one, I'm like, yeah, I don't see myself replaying this, but it definitely is catering to like old fans and people that like grew up loving this game. You can play the original the original Syberia. Like it's on every modern console anyway. Like it's on Switch, I believe.
Oh, want to know what's hilarious? It's actually playable on Steam Deck, and this isn't.
Oh, geez. Okay. So, I mean, honestly, there's very little stopping me. Like the old game doesn't look that bad still. Like
no, it doesn't.
Up. So it didn't really feel like necessary as like the Amazon remake is. I feel like they could have done like a Syberia 1, 2, 3 collection, like held off and released that for like the 30th anniversary or something.
I don't like the concept of AI upscaling is not something I'm a giant fan of, but upscaling as a technology has advanced considerably. They could have, if they were under a tremendous amount of financial pressure, they could have used upscaling technology to make the environments look better, or they could have redrawn them completely. Actually, consider the resources they put in to make them 3D. They could have redrawn them from scratch. I was really hoping that you were going to give this thing a great review.
Me too.
Because I was really hoping that, if they fixed some of the stuff I just can't get past, maybe I can finally play it, because this was always one of my big blind spots in my adventure game, in the adventure game canon. That being said, I have it. I'm going to give it more of a shot because, oh my God, the vibes are great.
Yeah, and it's not a long investment. Like you can finish it in like a weekend. It's a great weekend game.
It's just the game, the puzzle design. Oh, the stupid factory puzzle in like the first hour of the game.
Yeah.
Where you have to like get the right leg for the automaton is just like, it's so frustrating. All right. Well, let's move on to our final section now. We're not doing a discussion question today. I'm going to do something else because I'm going to be completely honest. I couldn't come up with a discussion question this week. So we're just going to do show and tell. And it's literally my interest in baseball has come to an abrupt and tragic end. So I am looking for more things to be obsessed with. So if you two would like to drop like something that you currently are really enjoying, it could be a video game, movie, television show, doesn't matter. Just hit me with it. Let's see what we got.
I'm a big reader and, I'm looking at the list of like books that I read recently, and in October and into November, I was listening to the audiobook of I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, which is a book I loved reading in high school. Like when I was a teenager, I loved that book. And the audiobook,
great book and almost a good movie.
Yeah. The book is so much better just because it's so much more hammy, and like the vampires are like have personality, and they talk to Robert Neville and they're like, "Come out, Neville." And the audiobook that I listened to, I got to see who recorded it. Amazing, like classic Hollywood style acting, like very like what's the guy I'm thinking of, like 10 Commandments, like
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, very Charlton Heston of like you damn vampires. But I really loved listening to it, and it holds up even better today as like a critique of toxic masculinity. Surprisingly, I was like, whoa, like this guy is like a dated dinosaur that is like drinking himself to death, and he's obsessed with women that he can't have because they're vampires. And yeah, it's a fantastic book. Like,
that is a little bit on that's a little bit right on point there.
Yeah, so I love listening to audiobooks like that. So I Am Legend, really fun audiobook and great book if you've never read it.
Neat. Caitlin, do you have anything in mind?
Well, see, this is tricky because I don't know what kind of things you have been playing or have watched. So, like, I can tell you what I'm currently playing and watching. And
if you tell me both of them, and I am familiar with both of them, both of us can be like, E is so good. And if I don't, I'll be like, E, I'm excited about that. So whatever.
So I have been playing for the last month Ghost of Yote, which is the not direct story sequel, but universe gameplay spiritual sequel to Ghost of Tsushima, and it is fabulous. If I loved Ghost of Tsushima, and Yote is more of the same, but I think improved in a lot of ways. It's sort of like it's Ghost of Tsushima meets Kill Bill meets depending on what mode you play in, it meets a Kurosawa film, or there's a couple different modes that make playing the game really more atmospheric and fun. So I highly recommend it. I've also finally been watching Andor, and it's super good, and definitely I think is living up to the hype that I've heard from people as like one of the better, or arguably the best Star Wars show available, and one of the honestly, forget Star Wars, just a good political show in general.
Funny you mentioned that. Speaking of interest, on a podcast this morning that we recorded that I will be mentioning later, Matt and I talked about Star Wars actually for a fair bit, and specifically how we read Star Wars novels as kids. And how for
the
me,
expanded universe.
Oh yeah,
expanded universe.
Before they killed it.
The Thrawn trilogy, yeah.
It's still alive to me, Caitlin. Don't say that.
That's the thing. I can't stand the fact, like, whenever I watch the new sequels, I'm like, you got rid of the expanded universe for this? Really?
Yeah. It's painful. Well, I guess I don't have to recommend it, but if anyone listening hasn't done this, I very, very much recommend basically anything that Timothy Zahn wrote for Star Wars, you should read.
Yep. Heir of the Empire is so damn good. It's just brilliant.
Amazing. So the Thrawn trilogy, the Thrawn duology, Survivor's Quest, just read everything that Timothy Zahn wrote. He's my favorite. I think he's the best expanded universe author that I read.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was the foundation of it. Like that, the trilogy really set the tone for everything that came after it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, and because of that, if you've read the books and you're enjoying Andor, that is a giant, like, oh, maybe I should check this out. Because I loved Star Wars, and like many people, I loved Star Wars.
Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away.
Galaxy far,
I used to have fun with fiction. Yeah. Now I just complain about Syberia.
I'll drop a few things for you too, if you'd be interested.
Please.
One is, and I don't know if you're going to roll your eyes at this. K-pop Demon Hunters is really good.
Already seen it. I agree.
Yeah, already seen it.
Everyone should watch it.
I've had Golden stuck in my head for like a month now. And worse than that, I found a mashup of Golden with a K-pop group called IVE singing a song called I Am, and it's a brilliant mashup. But because of that, now I have I Am stuck in my head too, which kind of backfired. I was like, maybe I can get it out of my head by switching it with this new song, and this new song is now stuck in my head just as much as Golden is. It's really good. There is a new, the new campaign for Critical Role has started.
Yes.
I've been watching it. I have never been able to get into Critical Role, but I figured I'm starting from zero here. It's a massive time sink. It's so much time required to watch it, but geez, it's good. And alongside that, they also have their adaptation of Campaign 2 Mighty 9 releasing in a couple of days, and they released the first episode on YouTube for free. And I watched it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm really excited for it.
I was actually thinking about that, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe I don't know how much people here are into D&D actual play campaigns.
I'd like to try Critical Role. I'm a fan of like Not Another D&D podcast, so I would definitely I want to try Critical Role because a lot of those people cross over into that other podcast.
Well, good time to start, literally, because they just started like a month ago. But like, especially the first 4 episodes, I guess, because they're setting up the world and the characters. Like these, it's a big time commitment, but it's a very entertaining.
They're always
commitment.
that long. Like this is not actually unique because of the opening. The episodes are usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 hours. Occasionally, it's a little bit less than 4 hours. Yeah, but yeah.
Caitlin, check out. I mean, it's going to be out in a few days, but if you haven't seen the first episode of Mighty 9 yet, I think you'll like it. It's good.
I had to finish watching Vox Machina.
Yes.
I haven't watched the last season. I just didn't get around to it. I want to do that before I start watching Mighty 9.
It's great. It's very good. And my last thing, which is unrelated, I'm a massive logistics fan. I'm a massive video game fan. And I found a YouTube channel that appeals to both sides of me. It's a guy by the name of Any Austin is the name of his channel. He has like 1 million subscribers right now. And he just does video game logistics. And I'll give you an example of 2 of his videos. Do the power lines in Red Dead Redemption 2 actually connect to anything? He follows every power line in Red Dead Redemption 2 to figure out if they make sense. And the other one is, are Grand Theft Auto's airports realistic? Where he goes to every airport in every Grand Theft Auto game and analyzes whether or not they actually could function as a real airport. The guy's channel is awesome. Like, he's really, really good. I really hope he's not problematic. I don't think he is in the cursory amount of research I've done, but like, wow, I like this guy's channel. It's so good. He does a lot of Grand Theft Auto, a lot of Skyrim, places in Cyberpunk 2027 you weren't meant to go. I recommend this guy's channel. He also did a power lines one for Grand Theft Auto 5 and 4. So yeah, fun stuff. Real fun stuff. Anyway, that's those are our show and tell things. So that's our discussion question for today. If you'd like a way to support us here at RPG Fan, we'd love to show and tell you our store. You can find it at www.rpgfan.com/shop. I highly recommend you check out the shorts. We have a bunch of new stuff coming out pretty soon. So take a look at that. Makes for some great Christmas presents. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have all kinds of things. So go there, check it out, buy some stuff for Christmas. You can also check out our past episodes of Random Encounter. Last week, we chatted about a Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake and The Outer Worlds 2, which I just finished 2 days ago. And if you want to hear my thoughts about Outer Worlds 2, besides the very early ones I provided on last week's episode, you can listen to next week's Retro Encounter, because that episode is going to be focused entirely on the developer Obsidian Entertainment. Matt and I and some other fine folks recorded that this morning. It was a fun time. So yeah, check that out. Bottom line, I like Outer Worlds 2, really enjoyed it. And you can hear why in that episode. And you can also check out Rhythm Encounter. And last week they were exploring electronic music in RPGs in an episode entitled Electro Bangers Galore, which is maybe one of the best titles of a Rhythm Encounter episode I've seen for quite some time. If you'd like to get in contact with us here, you can fire us off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. If you have any ideas for discussion questions, please send them in, because those are hard to think of. And to be honest, I kind of like show and tell. I might make them. That's not going to be a regular thing, because I think that I don't want to steal Triple Click's one more thing they do at the end of their podcast. But that was fun. I enjoyed that. Yeah. You can also fire me off an email personally at jlogan@rpgfan.com, and you can also find me at johnologan.bluesky.social. I'm not the only person on here with a social media presence. Caitlin, where can we find you?
You can email me. It's caitlina@rpgfan.com. And you can also find me on Blue Sky under my online Final Fantasy 14 name, Aurelia Burrell, which is also, you can find me in Final Fantasy 14 under that name. Please don't stalk me, please.
And Matt, how about you?
I guess you can reach me through like any RPG fan channels like Discord, or through the comments section, for example, or read my fiction at mattwardellwrites.wordpress.com. But most importantly, check out all the amazing writing at RPG Fan from like our very talented staff. I read a lot of, and I have a lot of hands on what we write, and it's all like always impressing me with how smart our writers are, and I feel lucky to be among them.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Help us get the word out there. And you can also rate us on iTunes or your other podcast player of choice. Caitlin, Matt, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And thank you very much for getting your way through these games. Caitlin, I know you're loving this game. Matt, I know you had a slightly less than enjoyable time playing it. So
it's over.
Them's are the breaks when it comes to reviewing games. So come back next week. We'll have 2 other games that we're going to be talking about. And whatever you are playing, have fun.